I am so pleased to welcome Chris to the studio from Books That Expand the Mind. Hello.
Hi, Sophie. How are you doing this afternoon?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. How are you, Chris?
Very well, thanks.
So, tell me all about your business.
Well, I started my business up probably like 3 or 4 years ago. It was quite an interesting start. My wife was getting fed up with the fact that I had about 400 books in my office and in the bedroom and all over the place. So she said, go sell some. So I set up a little store on eBay, started selling them, grew to love it. I now have about 1,700 books in my office at home. In total, I've had over 2,000 books, and it's still growing every day. Books are still arriving. I have had more arrive this morning, and it's grown into a very successful little business for me. So I absolutely love it, and I deal in antique, rare, and esoteric books. So I brought a few examples along with me today, which just to give a flavour of what they are. And the first one I'm holding up, which unfortunately can't see on the radio.
I know, but we can describe it. Yeah, so it's a beautiful book.
This is a Bible from 1634.
Wow.
Now, this is deemed to be one of the best English translations of the Bible. This was done by royal assent, so it's prior to really the Church of England giving it approval. It was actually approved by the King, and it's got at the front of it some absolutely fabulous engravings of the genealogies of everybody that was in the Bible. And it starts off, I'm going to hand this one to you now, Sophie. So
oh my gosh, you are not going to let me touch this, Chris.
I am.
Oh my gosh, the fear. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. Wow, I feel like I'm holding something very precious.
That engraving that you see there is an engraving of Adam and Eve.
So, obviously this is radio and you can't see this, and it is such a shame, and now I wish it was television. But this book is, if you imagine what an old book looks like, it really looks like that. It's brown, all the pages are like a brown, but also they've got some really interesting marks on them, and all the way around the edges where the pages would normally be white, again it's also like a dark brown, like it's really been used and loved and read, and it's just amazing. Thank you, Chris. I shouldn't be holding that. It's so precious.
That one is available on my website for £2,200.
Chris, I'm so glad you told me that after I held that book. So that book I just held is worth £2,200. Yes. Well, okay. Maybe don't hand me any more, Chris. So what have we got next?
The next one I've got this is absolutely beautiful condition book in vellum, 1604. It's the Book of Common Prayer, but it's actually in Latin.
Wow.
So this was before they really translated it into English and properly translated it into English, and the condition of it is absolutely fabulous. Oh. I've seen books from the 70s or 80s not in as good condition as this.
Wow.
Yeah, and this book is over 400 years old. It's been so well looked after. The pages are, as you can see, very white.
They're very white. Oh, he's going to hand it me again. Oh, the fear. Thank you so much, Chris. This is beautiful. Now, what's the difference in age of these two books?
30 years.
And you would not know that, because that Bible looks so much older and worn and used than this one. Obviously, it's a cream, and the pages aren't nearly as dark. It is beautiful, and it's got handwritten on it, something I can't read because it's in Latin. In Latin, I don't speak Latin. It's just. Wow, it's amazing. So this is again a cream book. It's like a cream leather, is it? And then
It's called vellum.
It's called vellum. And what is vellum?
It's animal skin.
Okay, yeah. So like an original leather almost, yes. Something that they used before. Yeah. That is just amazing. It's got a little mark on the back as well, a brown mark, but it just looks absolutely spectacular. So I'm going to hand it back before you tell me how much that's worth.
This one's about 500 or 600.
Okay, so not as much as the other one, but also still a very expensive thing to hold.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And I've got a couple of others here. These are brand new, so these literally arrived through my post box this morning.
Oh, we've got brand spanking new books.
The interesting story about these are as I say, I deal with antique, rare, esoteric books. So I cover what we would call the left-hand path and the right-hand path. The right-hand path is things like religion and Christianity and other religions as well.
Yeah.
The left-hand path is a little bit more esoteric.
What does that word mean? Because that's a really big word, and I must admit, when you wrote that in your form this morning, I did Google it because I was like, I've never seen that word before.
What it some people sort of say, well, it's kind of secret. It's not really secret knowledge, because a lot of this stuff is not secret knowledge.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about these books, this is a book on astral projection, one of the first ones, but it's a deluxe binding, so it's a very special binding. It's not. I haven't even taken it out of the seal yet.
No, they're very precious.
Yeah. And this other book here is about the Kabbalah. So this is all about the Jewish book of religion.
Amazing.
So the other interesting thing about these books is I got them from a publisher from Peru. So these have travelled.
Peru.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
South America, Central America.
Yeah. So I get my books from all over the world.
You really do. And do you know something I can tell, Chris, is how much you really love books.
Totally.
You speak about them with so much passion, and they're like your babies. You love them, and it's so amazing to have something that you enjoy so much.
You should. How it feels sometimes to sell some of my books is really hard.
Do you have to feel like you have to let go of them almost?
Occasionally, yes.
And your wife's like, get him out the house. Come on.
Occasionally, yes. And this is the other book I've got here. This is, I can't even pronounce this. You have to excuse me.
Okay.
I have a dyslexia, so sometimes I see words in front of me and I can't pronounce them. And this is one book I've really struggled with. But it's quite often, we would call this start with the Malleus. But it's actually translated, it is the Book of Witches.
The Book of Witches.
So, or the Hammer of Witches. So this was the book originally written in Latin by German priests, Catholic priests they were, to identify and find ways of identifying who was and who wasn't a witch.
Oh, wow.
And then how to persecute them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sadly, it happened, and you can't rewrite history,
exactly.
right? So yeah.
Originally, it was written 500 years ago.
Yeah.
This is the first English translation of that book.
Wow.
So this is from 1929, off the top of my head, written by a Reverend Montague Summers.
That's my surname.
Really?
That's bonkers. Yeah, my surname's Montague.
Okay. And he's a very well-known translator, writer of these kind of books, and he was an ordained priest. But he was also lived on the same street as Aleister Crowley.
Oh, wow.
And they knew each other.
Crazy.
But Montague Summers, I have a whole collection of Montague Summers books because I think they're fantastic. He is very famous in the esoteric world as well as the religious world more than anything else. And he wrote a lot on the occult.
Yeah.
I have other books of his at home. One around the discovery of witchcraft, which was originally written by a guy called Reginald Scott.
Wow.
In the 1400s, and he did an English translation of that as well. And this again has got some fabulous engravings in it from the original book that was written in the 1400s. But yeah, this is a limited edition. There were only 1,275 of these books produced in this format. They're not easy to get hold of.
No, I can imagine.
I have two.
Oh, wow, of course.
The one I have in my hand is actually for sale, and the one I have at home, which actually does have a dust jacket, which are so fragile, most of them have actually been destroyed. The one that I've got is the only one that I've seen with an entire dust jacket on it.
Wow.
And it's a bit broken and it's a bit split. You can see how fragile they were.
Yeah.
But every other book I've seen of these, and I've seen quite a few, none of the dust jackets actually exist.
Gosh.
Yeah. So
you're very lucky to have one then, aren't you?
I'm not selling that one.
Not selling that one. That one's yours. And is it your final book?
This is my final book.
This looks like something you'd hunt for treasure with as a kid.
This looks a bit like a pirate book.
It does. It looks like a treasure hunt book.
Yes. Actually,
beautiful.
This is another book it's another book from the 1600s. This was from 1692. This is a book written by Roger Lestrange, and it's the English translation of Aesop's Fables.
Oh, wow. Aesop's Fables.
Yes.
Ah.
Which
very familiar.
Everybody knows about today.
Very familiar.
The translation that we even use today, we may have modernised the English a little bit because this was English from 1600s, is based on this book.
That is incredible.
Yeah. And this is, again, it's a fabulous book.
It is so beautiful. It really does look like a treasure chest book.
And
it's stunning.
If I can find it, there is a fabulous engraving there.
Oh, wow. A beautiful picture.
Aesop with all of the animals around him.
Yes.
Yes.
That is just fantastic, honestly.
And it's I've seen very few of these around in the marketplace, and in that condition as well. And it's absolutely fantastic book. And that one is one that I do treasure. And when I talk to people about the books that I have, it's one that I talk to people about because they can connect with it. Because most people know the stories, most people are brought up on the stories, but they don't know the history behind the translations, etc., etc. So, it's a lovely book.
It is just brilliant. Yeah. So, Chris, if people want to get in touch with you, come visit your bookstore, visit you, what's the best way to do that?
I'm online only, so I only have an online business. I have thought about that bookstore, but its overheads are too much at the moment.
Yeah, so, and also everyone will be touching your books.
I had that conversation the other day when I was in a bookstore in Canterbury.
Oh, yeah.
And I was having the conversation with the owner, and as we were having the conversation, somebody pulled a book off the shelf, and the one next to it fell on the floor.
Oh, we can't even imagine, Chris, with yours.
And both of us were looking at each other going...
Shock. Absolute shock. No, we don't have that.
We don't want that.
What's your online shop called?
The online shop is www.booksthatexpandthemind.co.uk. It's very simple. And I can also be contacted by email, chris@booksthatexpandthemind.co.uk.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Chris. Such a pleasure to chat to you. Such a pleasure to see these books in person. I feel very honoured that you let me hold them, although I don't know why you let me hold them. When you said how much it was, I was like, oh my gosh, Chris, have that back. But thank you so much. Best of luck with the business.
Thank you, Sophie.
And lovely to see you have such a passion for something as well.